Hello friends, I'm going to be doing some videos this way for a little while. I usually do videos where I'm talking about certain things. Now I'm going to shift that over to actual details about things that I look into. So if you want to see my face, just check out some of my older videos. I'll possibly do a video where I'm talking about life stuff that has to do with depression and anxiety, all that. So most of my topics with what I'm doing here on my PC, I'll be looking at or discussing with you things that have to do with depression, some of the things that I'm looking into that I think has to do with depression, general information that you can take and use towards information that you've possibly put together if you care. If you look into things for yourself and you think that that's something that's possibly going to advance the civilian knowledge or the civilian advancement of bettering or possibly bringing down depression, bringing relief to depression or anxiety or mood swings. Today I'm looking at the vitamin B5. I'm not even gonna say it. It's the pantheonic acid. This is a neurodegeneration. So this was something that I was thinking about beforehand. So then I'm looking at it when I do my search and all that. I'm first going in with no bias. So I'm not looking up exactly what I'm thinking. I'm looking up something that's possibly going to go towards that, to keep it simply. So I'm looking at this here from the National Library of Medicine for all the people that are very concerned with everything being that comes from scientific and not your regular old human. If you take a look with me here at this site, I found something that I thought was interesting. How can this information here that I'm looking at have anything to do with depression? Well, to give you some back information on some of my other videos, I've looked at potassium and calcium having to do with depression, ion channels in the brain having to do with depression, so that has to do with electrolytes, and a lot of medications that are given to people have to do with electrolytes. It has to do with depleting the electrolytes in your body, which is going to be depleting the electrolytes in your brain. So since you know that, what I've been thinking about lately, what is the reason though for that? Since there's always cause and effect, what's the reason for the electrolyte issues? So if there's also issues with the glutamic acid and the GABA in the brain having to do with your brain going up or your brain coming down, if there's a gumming up effect in the brain, why is that? What's happening there? So I look at anything that can have to do with the brain and things that you've ingested. Because self-evident, my depression or mood swings a lot of the times can twist and turn when I've eaten certain foods too much, when I've experienced certain things with different kinds of diets, such as taking carbohydrates out. I'll notice massive differences in the way I feel, how my body is going about, how my brain is going about. So it's self-evident to me that it's not the food that's making you depressed. It's that you have genetics that have to do that you're prone to something where there is the cause and effect, where there is the issue, and the food has something to do with an interaction that has to do with it. So to make that clear. So here is something with this specific neurodegenerative disease, they'd say. Now these are people that are prone to this issue here, and this has to do with a buildup of the vitamin B5. It's going to cause basically a pressure inside of the mind, inside of the brain, and it can lead to, says here, it's a abbreviated PKAN, characterized by early childhood onset of progressive dystonia, dysphoria, rigidity, and choroeothetosis. Pigmentary retinal degeneration is common. So then I always think of all kinds of things that I've looked up when I read about any of that stuff. Retinal degeneration. If you look at any of my videos, my eyes have been going to hell. They haven't been doing too good. I'm 41. Yes, I understand you get older and your eyes start to go. Still, if you look at some of this information, you can realize that some things are possibly related to others. So you'd say, okay, well, this is an extreme case of this. Now understand that there's always a possibility that this is something that can be happening with other people's brains, just not in an extreme sense. That's why there's different degrees of schizophrenia, different degrees of depression. Some people have major depression, some people have a little bit of depression. Something to consider. Here towards the front is a type of neurodegeneration with brain iron accumulation. So it goes to show how there's the possibility of the ripple effect, how one thing goes to the next thing and then goes to the next thing, and then you have more and more issues. And if this is a progressive disease, or if this is something that progresses as you age, as I've noticed with, so this is another thing where I say, well, then that's interesting, because I've also noticed that most of my mood swings and all that stuff started for me when I was about probably 13, and mostly when I was 14. And then I noticed that things when I was 30 really started to take off, and then up until I'm now 41, every year this is progressively getting, I'd say, worse, problematic, more issues with my body, more issues that I'm noticing with my mind as well. Says here, prominent speech defects, which I'll have. Sometimes I'll have more of slurred speech, and a lot of times I'm not really flowing real well with my speech. My thoughts don't come out of my mouth the same way as they are inside of my head. The rate. And more gradual progression of disease. So this B vitamin, this specific B vitamin that this is mentioning here, is something that's added to foods. So if you're taking in, let's say, a very specific high food that's that has B5 in it is salmon, avocado, beef, chicken, things such as that. Then there's the actual B vitamins added to cereals. And most people eat cereal. They eat, especially kids and even adults, they'll eat boxed cereal, Pops, cornflakes, whatever, Frosted Flakes. And now so you have B vitamins added that you're taking in. And these are water soluble, so this is something that passes through your body. Still, this is something to consider about B vitamins, as this is something that can be put into places inside of the body. It has to do with actual pigmentation. It has actual to do with building blocks of your body outside of amino acids. It's actually placed into places in your body. It's not something that just runs through you that charges you up and then, oh, it's just something that does something good for you. No, your body stores it in a way. It uses it, utilizes it, and it uses it for different things, of course. Still, it's something that's going to be stored inside of your brain. So, now here's an issue that I'm saying that humans can look at is the added vitamins and minerals in foods. Why are they added in there? What's the reason for it? So that's something to think about for yourself. To sit there and think. If a box of cereal says added vitamin B to boost children's energy, to boost your energy, to give you energy. All right. Well, I could hand you anything and tell you that it boosts your energy. Are you just gonna go with that? Or are you just gonna say, "Oh, okay, that's great. Oh, okay, I'll just put it in my kid's body. I'll just put it in my body." Well, we've got a little bit of an issue if it's not. If it's something that's added in, okay? So I had a B vitamin. I've had all kinds of B vitamins. And they always vary in the percentage of each B vitamin in a multi-B vitamin. And one of them it had 2,000% pantheonic acid. And I remember that. And that was years ago. And I remember looking at that thinking, why is there 2,000% pantheonic acid and all the rest of them are 200%, 100%? What's the reason for that? And whenever I take a B vitamin these days, I actually feel a little sick putting it in my mouth. It tastes like something that I don't want. And still I take it, and I'm thinking that there's one of the B vitamins that I could possibly use or I need, and it seems that there's something else in it that doesn't taste right. And this is a by itself B vitamin. This isn't a multivitamin. This is a multi B vitamin. So it has all the B vitamins in it. It's usually called a B complex vitamin supplement. Then there's brewer's yeast. And brewer's yeast is in beer. And it's also something that's sold in health food stores. It's not probably exactly 100% the same as what's inside of beer. Beer has actual yeast in it. The yeast you get off the shelf in a tub, a health food store, that's deactivated yeast. It still has the similar B vitamins, so we'll just leave it at that. So if you're taking in the yeasts and such, or excuse me, the brewer's yeast, then you're taking in massive amounts of B vitamins. So what is a human doing that has a low deficiency? Well, one, you probably haven't been eating. So anorexia possibly, or some kind of some disease that will possibly have to do with loss of B vitamins. That's to the side for right now. If that's not something you're experiencing, either one of those, and even in some kind of emaciation, or you've been in a place where you haven't had access to certain foods, then possibly you have some kind of deficiency. How about an American diet? Doesn't really look like a whole lot of deficiency out there. Even for people that don't shop at health food stores, or where there's produce and such, and maybe they go to Family Dollar a couple of days a week, and then maybe every other week they go to their grocery store and pick up some food. Maybe that's where they have access to it. Maybe the grocery store is too far away. Maybe they have anxieties or delusional about certain kinds of foods, so they only eat pizza or they only eat potato chips all the time. Then yes, then it's possible that you're going to have an American can have deficiencies of any nutrient, and they're likely going to have issues. Now let's say that you're eating your Burger King and your McDonald's and your Taco Bell and your foods that you're not making for yourself, and you're drinking Monster drinks, or you're drinking specialty drinks, or you're having smoothies, you're having vegetable smoothies, you're having this, you're having that, then you're getting plenty of B vitamins. Because again, remember, a lot of foods that are processed, and a lot of your buns, a lot of your, even though they've had nutrients stripped from them, keep in mind that they're enriched. So what they do is they take all the nutrients out of the flour or whatever, and then they add back in certain other nutrients. Think about that. So they're putting in very specific B vitamins usually into your buns. Look at the ingredients, look at the nutrition facts, look at what they've put into it, and usually they're going to add riboflavin, they're going to add thiamine, or they're going to add something like that, a B12 sometimes, or even other stuff. Why is that? There's a question. Why is it completely stripped down and then certain things put into certain foods? Why is that? Something to consider. It's not a conclusion. I'm not saying that this is absolutely the situation. I'll tell you though, if I take in a iron supplement, I will feel very depressed after taking that supplement. And I've got it down to where if I ever take a 5 milligram or a 10 milligram iron supplement, if I get to thinking to myself, well, maybe I'm anemic or whatever, probably not. Because that's another thing that's added to food is iron. So as this is stating, this article by this medical library, that there's actual iron accumulation from what is basically a toxicity of B5. Then that's just another drop in the bucket, just another thing I'll remember towards something else. And I took B5 in a B supplement about 3 days ago, and yeah, I didn't feel good after that. And I'm always going to be going up against not feeling very good, because my brain is prone to having these kinds of issues. So a big factor and a big thing to keep in mind and remember for myself is that ever taking in too much of anything always leads me to having issues. And if I have anxiety or any of those mood swings, in however my day's going, depression is going to make it to where I'm almost to the point of being no more. I'm not even going to be around anymore if the depression gets so much. My mind's not even bringing in information, and depression, to stay away from depression is basically one of my, when I wake up every day, that's basically the forefront of everything. What do I got to do to not be depressed today? And every little thing is a factor. So the beer I drink does make me depressed. And even though I've brought my beer drinking down significantly, it still makes me depressed if I do not lay off from it or get away from it for a while. If I consistently take it in, even little amounts consistently, I'm going to end up with these issues. Now, alcohol itself, just to add to the point, just to add to this information, alcohol itself breaks down your cells. It breaks down your entire body. Everything it has contact with, it breaks it down. And the most important thing about alcohol is it breaks down your blood cells. And that's going to have to do with your iron too. That's going to have to do with your energy levels. That's going to have to do with your entire body being oxygenated. So alcohol is something that people with mood swings and people that are labeled as bipolar and also borderline, they're more likely to be alcoholics generally, or drink alcohol. That is something that clears the mind. It's something that we use to clear the mind. On the other side, though, the more of it you take in, the more of these issues that you're going to have that I'm bringing up. And these are issues that I have, and these are issues that other people have. They fall apart. You literally fall apart. Your body's not going to stay together with alcohol going into it. So up and beyond that, there's also a load of B vitamins inside of beer, especially if you're not drinking light beer. If you're drinking regular beer or even craft beers that are even rich, they have a more rich and complex flavor. That's mostly through the hops and the B vitamins from the brewer's yeast, from the stuff they put in, from the vitamins they put in, because that adds to the flavor. That's also something to consider, is that a lot of food's flavor comes from the actual vitamins, the B vitamins, the characteristics of the food that you recognize and remember. So that's all I have for today. Perhaps that will be of some good to you. And when I have some more information, I'll come back on and do a little more for you. So you have a very nice day. Take care.